3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, Baltimore. This is James MacArthur, your friendly neighborhood Baltimore spectator, coming to you today with another fantastic podcast. Oh man, what a past couple of days it's been in Baltimore. There's just been so much going on. Top story in the news today, of course, from the BaltimoreSpectator.com is the story of the drive-by shooting that took place last night. A very, very strange case. We don't have a lot of drive-bys anymore in the city. That's something that has mostly gone by the wayside. We have a lot of shootings, no less, but drive-bys are usually not something we've been dealing with. And particularly disturbing about this case is that it was a quadruple shooting. It's been, I still haven't found the records yet, but it's been a long time since we've had 4 people shot at the same time in the same place. It's been a very violent 48 hours. And, before I go any further, I just want to give a shout out to a couple people. Of course, Brother Darren Muhammad, who is doing his thing right now at 1590 WFBR, who's also on Spreaker. If you're listening to me live and not him, definitely check out his podcast. And if you're listening to my podcast, well, I thank you for coming along here. From my Twitter family, there's so many of you. I'm going to single out a couple right now. Dave Starsky, he's at ULightPilot, who said, continue the show. The show must go on, when I asked if anyone really cared about these podcasts. And also Michael A. Wood Jr., local author here in Baltimore. He is the author of the novel called Elliot, and his Twitter is at Michael A. Wood Jr. Back to the news. At this point, there isn't much of an update. If you get a chance to check out the story at BaltimoreSpectator.com, the top story of the quadruple shooting that took place last night. Everyone's still alive, which is a good thing. And we have no suspects, no known motives, the usual Baltimore deal. We're just tracking at a very, very, very low rate of clearance in homicides right now. And, if you listen to a rant I did last night, I had a podcast, I did a couple podcasts from the field. I get upset with the way some of these officers treat people on these murder scenes, bystanders, people who come up. Like I said, you never know who has information, and you may scare someone away. And could this persistent attitude be part of why in Baltimore right now we're able to solve less and less homicide cases? I think it's definitely something to think about. And, I was pretty upset last night. Well, my outrage goes back to Wednesday with Commissioner Batts, who, as you know, most of you know, he made this statement, which is quoted in the article, about The Wire. And it's not the Baltimore he wanted to expose to people. It's not the Baltimore he wants the world to see. He wants more positive stories and, all that stuff. Well, funny thing happened. There were no shootings on Wednesday. Less than an hour after Bats dissed the wire, we had the first murder, and then the next murder, and then the next shooting. All told, last night, within 48 hours of Bats putting down the wire, we had 10 shootings in the city. And then we've had another one since overnight, and we had a stabbing early this morning. And this sounds funny, but seriously, I've noticed this. It's weird. It's a weird thing. The only evidence I have of it is empirical, what I see with my eyes. But every time someone from City Hall or the police department makes some type of declaration that crime is down or something like that, we end up having a crime spike. It is a very bizarre thing. But pay attention. Pay attention, see if you see it yourself. We were having a very active discussion about this very thing on my Facebook page, because I've shared the article there with folks, and a lot of people were troubled by the commissioner making this statement. Chris in Baltimore, the local news reporter, anchorman there, he was bothered by it too, and we carried that conversation on in Twitter. A good friend of mine, Marcus Strider Dent, who is leader of the local Guardian Angels, said on Facebook, to blame the wire for the shootings in Baltimore City is like blaming the Baltimore Grand Prix for speeding tickets. It just don't work that way, man. You can't draw these wild conclusions for someone who has a doctoral degree. My goodness. Chris said he hasn't met him yet. He wants to withhold judgment, and so do I. But until then, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to wonder what the heck is going on. And why are things like this being said? One of the most outspoken social media friends of mine, Sebastian said on Facebook, no kidding, I'm quoting here, it was one of the few things Fred Bielefeld did that made me say, geez, buddy, what are you thinking? Haven't had a chance to ask Dave Simon about it directly. He's pretty convinced Fred attacking the wire wasn't motivated by politics or the mayor. It was just fuzzy thinking. Now, on the eve of the new commissioner here, Bats is just coming in and he's doing the same stupid thing, according to Sebastian. It's an auspicious beginning for a guy we all should be skeptical about anyhow. If you had a new hire who saw his predecessor touch a hot stove by accident, and you saw him walk into the kitchen and touch the same hot stove, despite there being plenty of press coverage on how stupid it was when the last guy touched the hot stove, you have to worry. That was Sebastian's take on this thing. And we don't know if the commissioner will listen to this show. We don't know if he reads the Baltimore Spectator or pays attention to Twitter. But he's got to be kicking himself right about now. He's got to be kicking himself for coming out in Midtown community group and making this statement about we don't want people to see the wire, basically. And meanwhile, in Westport, an area that looks very much like scenes you've seen on the wire, real gritty, hard scrabble, someone's getting blown away just shortly after he says these things. We got to stop playing around with this. We have to acknowledge that side exists. We don't want it to. But just wishing it goes away or pretending it's not there is not going to solve it. So that's my outrage of the day. I just think it's unreal. This man says this, and we have nearly a dozen shootings. We have the stabbing. I mean, Bats, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to lay off it, buddy. You're gonna have to not talk about Hollywood, not talk about entertainment. And let's start talking in terms of real life. I know you're new. I know you're still getting to know the city, but you need to get firmly grounded in reality. Dr. Anthony Batts. This is Dr. James MacArthur, giving you some heart-to-heart, man-to-man advice. A lot of us would like to see you succeed. This city is a city in crisis. The city is a place where crime is out of control. There are folks like me who are critics on the sidelines, you may say. But you should know that our intentions are the best of intentions. We want to see the city succeed. We want to see the city rise up. We criticize because we're tired of more of the same, bringing more of the same results, which are poor results, which are getting us absolutely nowhere. We own homes here. You probably don't yet. You just moved here. So bear with us when we seem frustrated. Bear with us when it seems like we want you to hit the ground running. Because to be honest, they should have told you this when you applied for the job. If you're not able to do that, if you're not able to get right into it, get in sync, get in line with what's going on here. I mean, I know it's a long ways from the West Coast. Well, maybe, just maybe, you're not the guy for the job. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm saying that these are things, despite the confirmation, we all have to wonder about. Keep in mind, in Baltimore, police commissioners, generally speaking, in the last 10 years have been quite short-lived. Out-of-town police commissioners especially have been really short-lived. The average out-of-town commissioner just doesn't make it here more than a year or two. That's reality, Dr. Batts. So, wishing you well, hoping it works out. If not, we won't be surprised. In other news, folks, Hurricane Sandy is headed this way. You've heard about it. You've heard me say, what a wimpy name for a hurricane. Who's afraid of something called Sandy? But no, seriously, you got to get prepared. No need to panic, but you have to just take some common sense precautions. Have the extra water in your house. Keep your car filled with gas. Keep your cell phone charged up. Don't let it go all the way down. What if the power suddenly goes out? Now what? Now you're stuck. You have a dead phone. Chaos is ensuing. This is Baltimore City. The slightest little natural disaster could just set this place off. I'm sure that's something Batts understands, being from Long Beach, next to LA, where they have riots for any reason. They have riots because a basketball team wins. They have riots because a basketball team loses. They have riots over courtroom decisions. Baltimore, we're not quite so impassioned about our issues. But nonetheless, folks, it's coming. The storm is coming. We don't know exactly what it will do, but it only makes sense to prepare. That's the whole nature of it. You wouldn't go to sleep at night with your door unlocked. Why? Because something can happen. Someone may try it and come in and bash you in the head or something. Most people, sensible people, don't drive a car without a spare tire. You're not expecting a flat. You don't want a flat, but should one occur, you can deal with it. I said there would be a big announcement. It's a bit delayed because I spent so many hours at the shooting scene last night. But we are launching a new initiative, a new community service initiative. It's called the Baltimore Spectator Hope Brigade. And I hope you guys will take an interest in it. I hope you'll be able to assist. I hope you will be able to contribute some of your cash dollars when you hear what this plan is and what we want to do for our community. That's about it here today, folks. I thank you all for listening. I thank you for continuing to support this little social media experiment. Continue to check out my news and views delivered with a unique twist at thebaltimorespectator.com. Of course, we're at Twitter at Baltimore Spectator. Like this show, follow this show on Spreaker if you haven't already. Facebook is facebook.com/Baltimore Spectator. And of course, my weekly call-in show on Blog Talk Radio is on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Oh man, sleep deprived, just scatterbrained today. So much going on. But I do thank you for coming in, and you will forgive me if my energy levels aren't the same as it normally is, if I don't have quite the same amount of gusto and vim and vigor. But please, I want you to help me pay close attention to Police Commissioner Batts. We need to watch him like we need to watch all of our public officials. I'm not picking on him just to pick on him. The mayor, the governor, the council people, they work for us. Even Batts acknowledged at that same meeting that we are the bosses. So if we're the bosses, guys, let's start acting like bosses. Let's start letting these folks know that we have expectations, we have demands, and we're going to be holding them accountable for what their jobs are supposed to be. That's probably about it. Oh yes, the phone number to reach me anytime, night or day. Text messages preferred. I can't always talk on the phone. Like if someone wanted to call me now, I can't. I'm doing this podcast. 410-205-6397. That's 410-205-NEWS. Keep those tips coming. Email is macarthurmedia@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, folks. As I often say, be well, be blessed, and be more.
Trying to find an ocean, looking everywhere. Hard times in the city, in a hard time by the sea. Ain't nowhere to run to, there ain't nothing here for free. Hooker on the corner, waiting for a train. Junk line